Shake up at the State Department. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is expected to step down in January. He could be replaced by CIA Director Mike Pompeo. This is according to sources at Fox News. This comes amid reports of growing tensions between Secretary Tillerson and President Trump. Remember, back in October, Secretary Tillerson allegedly threatened to resign, reportedly called President Trump, quote, a moron. State Department spokesperson Heather Nauert weighed in during a news conference yesterday.
The secretary is someone whose feathers don't get ruffled very easily. He kind of, brushed this off today. He's heard these kinds of stories before. These stories have come up through his tenure here at the State Department, and he's just going on about his business. He remains the Secretary of State. As long as he is serving at the pleasure of the president, he will continue to do that job.
President Trump is scheduled to have lunch with Secretary Tillerson this afternoon. Joining us right now is Fox News national security and foreign policy expert Walid Phares. Walid, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
What's your take on this? You think Rex Tillerson is out?
Well, we have to believe the reports until we actually see that happening. What is important is maybe at first sight, we think it's really about personalities, and it could be. All administrations had those nuances between the Secretary of State, President, and other heads of agencies. But at this point in time, what I can see is in integration of foreign policy, the pressures coming from outside with all these conflicts from East Asia to the Middle East and beyond needs to have the State Department, the CIA, DOD, and the White House in one line, in one strategic line. And that's why I think the changes that will affect potentially the State Department, the CIA, and the White House basically are all to create this integration of foreign policy.
Yeah, but is it just personalities, or is it actually a difference in terms of strategy? Remember when the whole issue around the Qataris were going on? The president was very clear. He was going to push back on Qatar supporting terrorism. Rex Tillerson handled that very differently. There were also questions about the handling of North Korea. So is this just personality, or do these two gentlemen truly have a different outlook and strategy that they're applying to foreign policy?
I would say really in depth, it is about strategy. It is about choices, because personalities, you could resolve that with personal relationship, with lunches, with tea, what have you. But strategies are different. And each one of these leaders basically is advised by teams. And I think at this point in time, as I made the case earlier, the president and the White House and all those who advise them want to see a complete integration of foreign policy, just because we are facing a very serious series of challenges around the world.
Walid, it's Dagan McDowell, but what does the nation lose in terms of intellect and know-how if Rex Tillerson leaves that job? And I'll point to the thread that connects us and all these nations that despise the United States, and that is energy, oil, and natural gas. Whether it's Iran and Russia using their energy resources for a very long time as a weapon against the rest of the world. I'll point that the state-owned energy company in Poland just signed its first 5-year deal to buy American liquefied natural gas. That takes an incredible amount of power away from Russia. It hands it to the United States. How does that change if Tillerson leaves, the former CEO of Exxon?
That's a great point. I wish I have all the answers to that. But what I can say is this, that Secretary Tillerson's ideas and engagement worldwide are not going to dissipate. They're going to always be around, and the United States will use those skills and this web of relationship. But what is needed right now, as far as I understand, is someone at the head of the State Department that also can integrate intelligence, defense, foreign policy, and communication with the White House to be able to lead that foreign policy and fill the State Department with many positions that are still vacant. The role of Secretary Tillerson in the future is going to be still very important. It doesn't have to be from Foggy Bottom, but it could be from some other positions.
Well, especially as the threats are rising. Let's look at the North Korean missile program. Exclusive satellite images obtained by Fox News last night show what appears to be North Korea preparing to use another launch site in North Pyongyang. This coming after the Hermit Kingdom test-fired their highest ever ballistic missile earlier this week. So what action should the Trump administration be taking at this point, given what we're seeing this week?
It is very serious, absolutely, and the public is now aware of that. What we're having right now is that the United States is consolidating what we call the Pacific Front, the Western Allies front. That would be Japan, South Korea, other forces in the area. And we're doing our job. I mean, the U.S. is basically ready, as far as I understand, if something more dramatic happens. But reality is that Russia and China should be very worried about. They have borders with North Korea. Any accident, I'm not saying incident, any accident inside North Korea will affect Vladivostok, will affect Beijing. So what I see right now is that the Chinese and the Russians are now interested, are now worried. They don't want to show it, but basically they need to coordinate with the United States, with the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, to make sure that the North Korea problem is not affecting them, their own national securities.
Right.
Walid, it's Kevin Kelly here. The situation going on in North Korea, I don't know how we stop or prevent Kim Jong-un from getting a nuclear weapon. He seems hell-bent on it. What could be done to actually prevent him? It seems like he doesn't want anything. We could come to him repeatedly with incentives or, sanctions, whatever it takes. And it seems China is just giving way and they're enabling it. I mean, in order for them to develop the nuclear weapons, they got the technology and the education from China. So what could we do here?
Well, first of all, we need to have a serious talk with China. I think we started, the United States started, but even more serious in terms of, okay, what we're going to actually do about North Korea. What are your interests in North Korea? Are you concerned that if this regime goes down, there will be an anti-Chinese regime? We have to be very clear and transparent at this point in time. And there could be, agreements with the Chinese, minimal agreements on this level. But it is very important to consider that Russia, China, the United States, France, and UK are the 5 permanent members. So the North Korean regime is always concerned about international pressure on North Korea more than American pressure on North Korea. So we need to coordinate with the other members and at the same time consolidate the Western alliance, putting pressure on the North Koreans,
it looks like
as was done under Reagan.
It looks like that's what this administration at least is efforting. Walid, thank you very much for weighing in on this important subject. Walid Phares there.